On a desolate battlefield, four warriors face the ultimate enemy, the Demon King. The battle reaches its climax. The hero drives his sword deep into the tyrant, and the group's mage Eftel unleashes a catastrophic level 10 lightning spell. With a final cry, the Demon King collapses. The war is over. Sometime later, a grand ceremony is held in the capital to honor the saviors of the realm. Crowds gather in the thousands, cheering wildly as the four warriors kneel proudly before the throne. To recognize their historic achievement, the king grants them the ultimate honor, the title of the Four Emperors, a distinction traditionally reserved only for the greatest noble mages in history. Eftel, born a commoner, is completely stunned. Throughout history, no commoner has ever ascended to such a rank. He can hardly believe what he is hearing, realizing this reward is greater than anything he could have ever imagined. The king steps down from the dais, walking personally to Eftel. In front of the entire kingdom, the king declares, "Eftel, you may not be the inherently strongest mage in the world, but your contributions and unyielding achievements are undeniable. From this day forward, you shall be known as the Lightning Emperor." Hearing those words, the dam breaks. Eftel collapses into tears as the crowd erupts. After 40 brutal years of studying, sweating, and bleeding to master magic, all of his hard work has finally been recognized. Eftel leaves the ceremony feeling prouder than ever before. For the first time in his life, he feels his sacrifices have truly paid off. Years pass, and Eftel is now an elderly mentor. One day, his top student, Merlin, begs to learn high-level magic. Eftel tells her not to rush. After training, Merlin heads deep into the forest on her own. She is determined to defeat a beast living inside a nearby cave. In her mind, defeating such a powerful monster would prove she is Eftel's greatest student. More importantly, she believes that if she becomes strong enough to teach others, Eftel will finally be able to stop working so hard and get the rest he deserves. Unfortunately, things go wrong almost immediately. The beast, a gargantuan wolf-like monster, is far stronger than Merlin expected. Before long, she finds herself running through the forest, desperately fleeing from the creature. Merlin has already tried level 4 magic on it, but it didn't do any damage at all, making her realize she needs something far more powerful. Realizing her normal spells are useless, Merlin decides she has only one option left. She begins chanting a level 6 spell, even though she has never successfully cast one before. To her surprise, the spell actually works. She launches a level 6 lightning bolt right at the monster, but then the beast steps out of the smoke, completely unharmed. Before Merlin can even react, the creature swats her away with tremendous force. She crashes heavily to the ground, struggling to get back up. The huge wolf slowly approaches her, preparing to devour her. At that moment, Merlin closes her eyes and accepts that she's going to die. Just as Merlin accepts her death, Eftel appears. Without even turning around, he calmly casts a level 10 lightning spell, vaporizing the beast instantly. But that night, Merlin catches Eftel coughing up blood. He is suffering from an incurable disease. Eftel admits a bitter truth. Despite his title, he never felt like the strongest. There was always an unbridgeable gap between him and the true prodigies. The next day, a breakthrough research paper arrives, detailing a new test to determine a person's exact magical aptitude from birth. Eftel tests Merlin first. Her results are spectacular. S rank in wind and water. Curious, Eftel tests himself, hoping to see if he ever had the potential to reach the true pinnacle of magic. The liquid remains completely colorless. The students panic. Colorless means absolutely zero magical aptitude. Eftel's world shatters. The reason magic took him decades longer than everyone else. The reason he was always left behind despite working twice as hard. It wasn't a lack of effort. He had zero natural talent. He had forced his way to the top through sheer agonizing willpower alone. The emotional devastation breaks his fragile health. That night, alone in his room, the Lightning Emperor suffers a massive heart attack and dies. But death is not the end. At that exact moment, a hidden skill called second reincarnation activates. Suddenly, Eftel's younger self appears in a strange, empty void, standing before a beautiful divine being. Looking around, he speaks to the entity. More than 50 years have passed. I had completely forgotten about the second reincarnation skill. This is where we first met, isn't it? Right after I died in my original world long ago. The goddess is deeply impressed by his answer. She wishes him good luck and sends his soul to a brand new world. He wakes up in the body of a 4-year-old boy in a new world. He vows to reach the top again, but quickly realizes that even in this life he still has zero magical aptitude. One day an enraged dragon terrorizes the skies. Knights are helpless. Eftel looks at his tiny 4-year-old hands. Realistically, a toddler can do nothing. But thinking back to the level 10 spells he spent a lifetime perfecting, he brings his fingers together. The spell activates instantly. A colossal beam of lightning tears through the heavens, bringing the massive dragon crashing down in a single blow. Eftel stares at his hands in absolute shock. The truth hits him. He may have zero aptitude, but his soul retains all the god-tier power of his peak past life, and he is only 4 years old. After burying himself in ancient research, 4-year-old Eftel discovered a chilling truth. He had been reborn into his exact past life, 400 years in the future. Even wilder, his new father, Duke Orcott, was a direct bloodline descendant of Eftel's own past life as the legendary Lightning Emperor. But because Eftel was born with absolute zero magical aptitude, the noble family branded him a permanent disgrace. He and his mother were stripped of their status and permanently banished to a desolate, remote village. The only noble who ever cared for them was Eftel's older brother, Fraser. Hoping to steer Eftel toward a realistic future, Fraser made a wager. If the toddler could copy his level 2 Windcutter spell, he would personally recommend him to the Magic Academy. Fraser closed his eyes, spent a long moment loudly reciting a complex incantation, and sliced a single tree. Eftel blinked, completely baffled by how slow and weak the magic was. Without a single word, Eftel mirrored the mana structure and instantly unleashed a devastating level 4 Windblade, vaporizing an entire row of trees in a single chantless swipe. Fraser literally fainted from shock. Right then, Eftel realized a grim reality. Over the last 4 centuries, the global level of magic had severely degenerated, and chantless casting was now a myth. To avoid dangerous attention, Eftel decided to hide his godlike power and lay low. For the next 6 years, Eftel trained in secret. By age 10, he could cleanly cleave solid ironwood logs in half. That's when Fraser brought in a surprise evaluator. Moria, the legendary, heavily scarred former knight commander. Moria challenged the 10-year-old boy to an all-out duel, unleashing a bloodthirsty aura that physically froze the courtyard. But Eftel's ancient instincts kicked in. Silently channeling physical enhancement magic, he dodged a crushing blow, seized the giant's heavy arm, and slammed the legendary commander violently into the dirt. Eftel won, but there was a catch. Moria was actually the headmaster of the Military Science Academy. By winning, Eftel had just accidentally earned a guaranteed scholarship to a military school he had absolutely zero intention of attending. 4 years passed, and at age 14, a sudden imperial summons arrived. The deadbeat Duke Orcott finally demanded to see his banished son. Eftel's mother wept with joy, but Eftel only felt a freezing indifference. The meeting went exactly as expected. Sitting high on his throne, Duke Orcott looked down his nose, calling Eftel a pathetic stain on the family legacy. The Duke hadn't summoned him out of love. He only wanted to inform Eftel that since the military academy was now paying for his room and board, he was officially cutting them off financially. But the cruelty didn't stop at abandonment. Before Eftel could leave, the Duke ordered his eldest, most sadistic noble son, Joachim, to step forward for a mandatory duel to the death, just to prove if the family disgrace was fit to survive the academy. As Joachim stepped into the light with a psychopathic grin, Eftel slowly lowered his hand to his blade. The Lightning Emperor was done playing the victim. The tension in the courtyard was suffocating. Before the duel began, Fraser warned Eftel that Joachim was the military academy's top graduate. If things went wrong, he had to surrender immediately. With a mocking grin, Joachim tossed Eftel a heavy hardwood training blade, a weapon heavy enough to shatter human bones. Hoping to terrify the kid, Joachim asked if he knew what was about to happen next, but Eftel just stared back blankly, completely ruining the dramatic suspense. Infuriated, Joachim launched into a vile rant, ruthlessly insulting Eftel's mother, calling her a talentless commoner who had brought nothing but disgrace to their noble bloodline. He proudly declared that since he couldn't legally kill her, he was going to break her son to vent his frustrations. Hearing his own distant descendant speak such garbage was the final straw. Joachim arrogantly offered Eftel the first strike, and Eftel took it. Rushing forward like a blur, Eftel unleashed a blitz of brutal, unrelenting sword strikes. Joachim barely managed to parry, his smug smile completely vanishing. Overclocking his own enhancement magic, Eftel shattered Joachim's guard and brought the heavy wooden blade crashing squarely against his head. The noble bully went flying across the pavement like a rag doll. Standing over his unconscious body, Eftel issued a chilling warning to the silent crowd. "Insult my mother again, and I will end your life." Turning on his heel, he gently took his stunned mother's hand and walked out. 2 weeks passed in relative peace until a frantic knock shattered a quiet family dinner. Standing at the door were Fraser and Master Moria, shivering, exhausted, and holding a secret baby. Fraser quickly explained the crisis. The kingdom's main army had left for a border ceremony, leaving the capital exposed. Seizing the moment, a corrupt minister had staged a barbarian attack at the southern gates to draw away the remaining castle guards. The minister's true sinister goal was to assassinate the infant crown prince, so the throne would revert back to the malicious eldest prince's lineage. But Eftel's sharp mind caught a massive plot hole. How could a horde of barbarians casually bypass the kingdom's high-alert border defenses? With a pained look, Fraser confessed the ultimate betrayal. Their own father, Duke Orcott, was the mastermind backing the conspiracy to exploit the coup for his own political gain. With the capital compromised, Fraser and Moria had smuggled the baby out, planning to cross the border and reunite with the main army. Eftel immediately demanded to join them. His mother begged him to stay, but Eftel's mind was made up. The trio sprinted through the dark, dense woods, pushing hard toward the border. But as they finally reached the edge of the forest, they skidded to a dead halt. The surroundings were eerily quiet. Suddenly, thunder cracked overhead and a wall of fire erupted behind them, cutting off their escape. When they looked forward, their hearts sank. Standing directly in their path was Duke Orcott himself, flanked by his entire glowing army of elite mages. Naively hoping his father still possessed a shred of humanity, Fraser discarded his weapons and walked out unarmed to negotiate. He begged the Duke to stand down. Duke Orcott didn't say a word. He calmly walked up to his eldest son, attached a brutal metallic taser clip to his chest, and unleashed a high-voltage electrical shock that knocked Fraser instantly unconscious. Laughing like a psychopath, the Duke ordered his mages into formation. Freftel lunged forward to protect his fallen brother, but Moria tightly held him back to keep him out of the crossfire. In unison, the mages unleashed a coordinated, catastrophic lightning spell right onto the spot where Fraser lay. The blinding flash forced Eftel to close his eyes, and when the smoke cleared, the ground was nothing but a ravaged, burning crater. See his kind, innocent brother mercilessly targeted by his own flesh. And blood triggered a primal rage Eftel hadn't felt in 400 years. This time, the Lightning Emperor was done holding back. Reassuring a terrified Moria that everything would be fine, Eftel calmly stepped out into the open. With a casual wave of his hand, he unleashed a level 9 ice spell. In a single breath, a colossal wave of absolute zero frost devoured the roaring forest fires, extinguishing the inferno instantly. The Duke and his entire army stood frozen, completely speechless. Though Eftel specialized in lightning, his weakest elemental affinities were still light years beyond this degenerate era. "I taught all of my descendants how to fight as the Lightning Emperor," Eftel muttered, his voice echoing with authority. "Now you're all just a bunch of arrogant morons who bully the weak." Duke Orcott panicked, screaming at his mages to fire. A massive volley of level 5 fire arrows rained down, but they shattered harmlessly against Eftel's invisible, chantless magic shield. Desperate, the mages combined their power into a coordinated level 6 lightning formation, proudly invoking the name of their legendary ancestor, Eftel. Heftel was deeply insulted by their pathetic attempt. Shrugging off their ultimate lightning blast like a light breeze, Eftel instantly teleported directly into the enemy ranks. Utilizing the fluid swordsmanship Fraser had taught him, he began cutting through the elite mages like weeds, turning his brother's lessons into an instrument of absolute vengeance. As the surviving mages turned to flee in terror, Eftel raised his hand to the heavens, charging his true signature arcana. "Let me show you how a real Lightning Emperor fights." A level 10 lightning, heaven's judgment. An apocalyptic explosion of golden electricity erupted, completely engulfing the landscape and vaporizing the entire mage army into absolute cinders. When the dust and smoke finally cleared, only Duke Orcott and Joachim remained breathing. Eftel had intentionally spared them, knowing that a quick death on the battlefield was far too easy for the masterminds of this treason. Both men were swiftly arrested by the royal family and publicly executed for high treason. To Eftel's immense joy, he soon discovered that Fraser had actually survived the blast. The ancient pendant he wore, a sacred family heirloom that Eftel had personally gifted to his descendants 4 centuries ago, had acted as a divine protection charm, completely absorbing the fatal blow. For his incredible bravery in risking his life to protect the young prince, the royal family officially stripped the Orcott dukedom away from the old lineage and transferred the entire title, wealth, and power directly to Fraser. Having unleashed his godlike power on the battlefield, Eftel no longer hid his true capabilities from Fraser or Moria. Though both men were utterly stunned, they deeply respected the young boy and swore to keep his past life an absolute secret. And this time, when Eftel announced his intention to finally enroll in the Magic Academy, Fraser didn't try to stop him. He just smiled, knowing his little brother was already capable of teaching the entire kingdom on his own. With his brother's blessing, the legendary Lightning Emperor turned his eyes toward the horizon, ready to rewrite the laws of magic once again. By the time Eftel turned 15, he had packed his bags for the Magic Academy. After a tearful goodbye to his mother, Fraser, and Moria, he set out on the road, quietly vowing to shatter every genetic limit holding him back. During a break at a roadside tea house, Eftel witnessed a young, arrogant A-rank adventurer named Edwards, loudly abusing a local C-rank mage and mistreating a young demon slave girl. The sight of the girl struck a painful chord in Eftel's heart, instantly reminding him of Merlin. Suddenly, panic erupted as a massive monster blockaded the road. Edwards confidently stepped up, bragging that a common B-class orc was beneath him. He chanted a lengthy level 4 fire spell and blasted the creature. But when the smoke cleared, the beast didn't have a single scratch. It was a berserker orc, one of the most dangerous variants in existence. Terrified, the elite adventurer instantly turned tail and ran. To buy himself time, Edwards cast a magical barrier, deliberately trapping the innocent villagers inside with the raging monster to use them as live bait. Disgusted by the cowardice, Eftel casually waved his hand and shattered the high-level barrier in a single second, leaving the crowd speechless. Wanting to avoid drawing attention to his true strength, Eftel planned to throw a weak level 3 fire spell as a visual distraction, then secretly finish the orc with a hidden level 9 spell. However, something unexpected happened. Eftel's dense, flawlessly refined mana overclocked the basic attack. The level 3 fire spell hit the berserker orc and dropped the colossus dead on the spot. Edwards watched in utter horror. The old mage in the crowd quickly pointed out the truth. Eftel had compressed and forged his magic, a fundamental skill that an A-rank adventurer like Edwards had completely neglected. Before quietly slipping away through the distracted crowd, Eftel confronted Edwards one last time, reminding him that trapping civilians was attempted murder. He ordered the fraud to free the demon girl and turn himself in. Amazed by Eftel's kindness, the demon girl quietly followed him out of the village. She dropped to her knees and begged Eftel to become her new master, explaining that without a registered claim, she would be captured and re-enslaved by someone far worse. Eftel asked how her people became enslaved, and she explained that her clan had been captured centuries ago after losing a war against humans. Then she dropped a bombshell. She was a direct descendant of Duor, Merlin Marn, who was now the immortal head mistress of the Magic Academy. Filled with immense pride for his past life disciple, Eftel readily accepted the girl, learning her name was Anastasia. They arrived at the academy town before sunset and headed to a high-end restaurant. The nobles and staff gave them dirty looks, disgusted that someone had brought a slave into a luxury establishment. Inside, Anastasia automatically knelt on the floor. Eftel firmly told her to forget everything she had been brainwashed to believe and sit in the chair as an equal. When a waiter arrogantly tried to kick her out, Eftel calmly dropped 3 legendary dragon drops onto the table. Seeing the gems, each worth a staggering 500 gold coins, the waiter's face turned pale. Eftel pulled back his jacket to reveal a whole stash of them. The staff instantly shifted into aggressive groveling, serving them the finest meal on the menu. Eftel gently told a nervous Anastasia that she had a right to be treated with respect, and if he ever treated her unfairly, she had every right to call him out. The next morning, Eftel bought Anastasia beautiful new clothes and encouraged her to register for the Magic Academy entrance exam alongside him. Though she lacked confidence, Eftel could clearly sense her massive, inherited magical talent. They entered the arena grounds just as the head instructor stepped forward to announce the brutal guidelines of Stage 1. A massive, no-rules battle royale. The Magic Academy entrance exam began with a brutal battle royale, with hundreds of applicants fighting for just 5 spots. Assuming Eftel and Anastasia were easy targets, a swarm of students attacked them, only for Eftel to use high-level physical enhancement to instantly knock out 9 opponents. When Anastasia cast a level 3 wind spell using an incantation, Eftel casually asked why she needed to chant. To show her it wasn't necessary, Eftel cast 4 level 4 wind spells simultaneously, completely chantless. The resulting hurricane blasted every remaining contestant out of the ring, leaving the B-rank supervisor in sheer shock as he declared them the winners. Next was the written exam. Eftel found the test trivial, as it covered basic magic theory he had already mastered in his past life. An hour later, he handed in his paper, only for Anastasia to drop a bombshell. Students were only supposed to answer one specialized question, not the entire test. Eftel scored a historic 958 points per round, setting the highest record in school history. When the results were posted, Anastasia excitedly found her name in the special magic class. Eftel couldn't find his applicant number on the main board and assumed he was rejected due to his 0 aptitude score. However, a separate board revealed the academy had classified him as a poor special elite student. While Anastasia celebrated his free tuition and perks, Eftel grimaced, knowing the high status would destroy his plan to lay low and research magical aptitude in peace. While walking through the courtyard, Eftel spotted a familiar face. Merlin, his student from 400 years ago, who was now the immortal headmistress of the academy. He grabbed Anastasia and hid, but Merlin sensed his mana and cornered him. Eftel denied knowing anything about the Lightning Emperor and quickly ran off. During orientation, the dean ruined Eftel's escape plan by calling him onto the stage as the top special elite student. The moment Merlin heard the name Eftel, she knew it was him. Later, after a crowd of fan-girdled classmates swarmed Eftel's desk, Merlin marched into the room and slammed his exam paper down. She pointed out that his test answers relied on hyper-advanced magic theory from 400 years ago, that only the Lightning Emperor knew. Cornered, Eftel cooked up a desperate lie. He claimed the Lightning Emperor had a secret lover and a hidden child, making him Eftel Orcott XIII. Merlin felt a pang of sadness that her master had kept a secret family, but it quickly turned into competitive excitement. She challenged Eftel to a duel in the upcoming mock battles to see if his bloodline lived up to the legend. Though going all out meant risking his cover, Eftel looked at how much his former student had grown over 400 years and accepted the challenge. Word of the mock battle between the special elite freshman and the legendary headmistress Merlin swept through the academy. Eftel stepped into the arena not to win, but to see how much his former disciple had grown over 400 years. Eftel kicked off the duel with a chantless level 6 fireball, which Merlin blocked with a level 7 barrier. As the fight escalated, Eftel unleashed a wave of level 7 ice spells and an icing titan, pressuring her while pointing out micro-flaws in her casting, using the exact same mid-battle advice he used to give her centuries ago. Locking in, Merlin layered her barriers, teleported behind him, and launched a spatial attack, only for Eftel to read her movement and counter-teleport behind her. Ready to go all out, Merlin began casting a level 8 Thor's Hammer spell, but as Eftel dodged the first bolt, he realized her trick. She was secretly weaving a second spell with her left hand, a third with her left foot, and a fourth with her right foot. Hovering into the air, Merlin unleashed Flying Yar of 4-limb multicasting, simultaneously firing 4 level 8 spells at once. Eftel smiled with immense pride at her growth, raised his hands and answered with his true original, level 10 lightning spell. The collision blinded the arena as Eftel's level 10 magic completely swallowed her attack. Before the explosion could destroy the stadium, Eftel used Magic Cancel, instantly erasing all the mana in the air and dropping a breathless Merlin safely to the ground. As the stunned crowd sat in dead silence, Merlin walked up to Eftel and softly asked if he was the Lightning Emperor reborn. Dropping the act, Eftel smiled, patted her on the head and told her how proud he was of everything she had achieved. Tears streamed down Merlin's face as she finally reunited with her master after 400 long years. Anastasia ran down from the stands, and after Eftel cleared up that she was a protected guest rather than a slave, Merlin welcomed her warmly. Later that evening, Merlin brought them to a pristine mansion on the edge of the city, Eftel's exact home from 400 years ago, which she had personally maintained in perfect condition the entire time. Merlin excitedly announced her plan to register Eftel and Anastasia as her personal apprentices, allowing them to attend the academy freely together. Smiling softly, Eftel pulled her into a warm hug and accepted. He was finally home, and his journey to master magic once again had officially begun. The next morning, Eftel took Anastasia down to the underground treasury to retrieve his ancient sword, Raikiri. A massive red genie materialized, blocking the vault and furiously mocking the ancient lightning emperor as a talentless fraud while calling Merlin an old hag. Eftel's face turned ice cold. Without an incantation, he executed a silent level 8 dispel, instantly shattering the high-tier barrier and freeing Raikiri. Merlin suddenly stepped out of the shadows with a terrifying aura, glaring at the spirit. Realizing Eftel was the reincarnated lightning emperor himself, the genie dropped to his knees, desperately begging for forgiveness. Later that afternoon, the trio explored the town's festival, spotting a district-wide treasure hunt with a hot springs trip as the main prize. Eftel noticed Anastasia secretly admiring a small reward doll on a poster. Using a precise level 5 magic jammer, Eftel disrupted the event's shape-shifting illusion magic, effortlessly sweeping every hidden prize in town to win the doll for Anastasia. Late that night, Merlin entered Eftel's study, revealing she had spotted a dormant slave crest on Anastasia's skin, and warning him that keeping her close was a ticking time bomb. Eftel slammed his hand onto the table, his voice dropping with absolute authority. "I've known about the crest the entire time, Merlin. It was my decision and I won't hear another word about it." The next day, Eftel and Anastasia arrived at Altina Magic Academy, drawing immediate disgust from the demon students shocked to see a human on campus. The class's top-ranked student, an arrogant demon named Abe, openly mocked Eftel, claiming he must have bribed his way into the school. Moments later, Merlin stepped up to the podium, announcing she would personally teach their class, and bluntly pointing at Eftel as the sole reason why. Eftel buried his face in his hands as his dream of a quiet school life vanished. During break, Abe cornered his desk, mockingly calling him the old hag's favorite, prompting Eftel to coldly warn him never to insult Merlin again. When Merlin later asked for a volunteer for the upcoming interclass combat tournament, Eftel slid down in his chair to hide. But before Merlin could draft him, Anastasia brightly raised her hand. "Headmistress, Eftel would like to volunteer." Eftel froze in utter betrayal while across the room, Abe glared at him with pure venom. In the schoolyard, Merlin announced a magic band mock battle between Eftel and Abe. Wanting a quiet life, Eftel planned to throw a slow fake kick, intentionally throw the match and lose. But Abe failed to react entirely, taking the blow flush to the jaw and crashing face down, completely out cold. With Abe one shot, the students rationalized a conspiracy. Humans were physical combat gods and Merlin was updating the curriculum. Eftel played along, hoping a swordsman reputation would hide his true magic. That night over dinner, Anastasia asked Eftel what he would do against an unchangeable fate. Eftel calmly replied that his response was always the same: put in whatever effort it takes to change it. Overwhelmed by his resolve and feeling useless, Anastasia suddenly stripped off her clothes, offering herself as a servant to repay her debt. Eftel spit out his drink, covered her up, and firmly told her he wanted her as an equal, not a slave. The next morning, Eftel and Merlin found Raikiri and several artifacts stolen from the treasury. The vault's genie revealed Anastasia had taken them under her remotely activated special slave crest. Merlin warned that breaking a god-bound contract was nearly impossible. A deity had once erased an entire kingdom over a severed contract. Unfazed, Eftel tracked Raikiri's secret signal directly to the true masterminds, Abe and the Port clan. At the Port mansion, Anastasia delivered the stolen loot to Abe, hoping it would buy her freedom. Abe just laughed, revealing her family's curse was an endless generational loop, requiring 5 stolen artifacts per heir, or death. Alone in her room, Anastasia recalled her sister Tatiana, who had died trying to fulfill the quota. The Port family had bound a young Anastasia to Tatiana's corpse to forcibly transfer the crest. Tatiana had acted cold only so Anastasia wouldn't mourn her death. Abe shattered her last shred of hope, revealing that Tatiana's debt didn't count toward her quota. She still owed 5 artifacts of her own. Worse, he confessed that her clan was never in a territory war. The Port clan had slaughtered her people, stolen their land, and framed them for murder out of pure greed. With her spirit broken and eyes hollow, Anastasia walked out into the night, trapped in chains by a god-bound curse.